Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Threpticon. Today, we're going to talk about a figure named Benjamin Lay, Quaker, abolitionist, vegetarian. Who was Benjamin Lay? He was born in Comfort, England in 1682. Around the age of 20, he became a sailor. He sailed around the Mediterranean. There, he encountered slavery for the first time. He met with an Ottoman ship, I believe, and there he encountered slaves. Though he realized that the Ottoman slaves were actually treated better than the African slaves in the African Atlantic slave trade to America. Um, so he returned to England. At a certain point, he married. He was active in the Quaker community, the Society of Friends. Um, but at a certain point, he moves to the new colony of Pennsylvania, right, to Philadelphia. Unfortunately, his wife does die, but he moves into this cave, pictured here. It's the same cave where he lived, and there he grew a lot of his own food. Outside, he had a garden. He had fruit trees, walnut trees, um, and he was able to produce a lot of his own food. And he also, while living here in the cave, he wrote his magnum opus, right? His main book called All Slave Keepers That Keep the Innocent in Bondage, Apostates, printed by Benjamin Franklin. Um, so the meaning of this title is anyone who keeps slaves, right? Who keeps other human beings, innocent human beings, in bondage, they are therefore apostates. They are therefore not Christians. They are wrong, right? That's the idea of the title. If you keep a slave, you are not a Christian. You're not anyone. You're a savage. So then he died in 1759 after his life as an abolitionist activist. So his main ideas are abolitionism, animal rights, right? He didn't believe in exploiting animals. He didn't believe in keeping them, like, similar to slavery. He didn't like keeping sentient beings in captivity, right? He was known for his street activism. He would have these elaborate public shows. At one point, he had a sack filled with red, purple pokeberry juice, right? So this sack filled with juice, and then at a certain point he has it inside of a book, right? And he stabs it, to make a big public scene, and then this red ink spurts everywhere and gets on everyone. Looks like blood. Um, he was involved in the Society of Friends, the Quaker Church, both in England and in America. But he was also influenced by pagan philosophy, above all, the Cynics and Diogenes. He took great inspiration from Diogenes. A famous scene from the life of Diogenes is pictured here. So, like Benjamin Lay, he lived kind of outdoors almost. He lived in this like barrel, and he wore very, very simple clothes. Um, and he ate very simple food, plant-based food for the most part. But one day, Alexander the Great comes up to him and he says, I'm impressed by your ideas. What can I do for you? Right? So the most important man in the world comes to him and says, what can I do for you? And he says, move out of the way. You're blocking the sun. And this shows his disdain for like worldly prestige. To him, Alexander the Great means nothing. Same with Benjamin Lay. He doesn't care about power. He doesn't care about any of that. He just cares about the truth. Um, and then once again, to reiterate, vegetarianism, fleshless diet, huge part of Benjamin Lay's existence. And there's always an inspiration. There's always an inspiration for these kind of ideas. And in this case, it was Thomas Tryon, right, who wrote this book on health. And he said, did not our forefathers live to wonderful ages in perfect health? Their food in those days being chiefly herbs, fruits, and grains, and pure water their drink. They did not make their stomachs the burial places of dead bodies, but their meat and drink was innocent and simple, by which they were able to check and regulate the extravagant motions of the mind and insurrections of the flesh. So he's invoking an age when people lived to a ripe old age, had a long health span, right? And they ate vegetarian foods according to Tryon, herbs, fruits, grains. They drank only water. They didn't make their stomachs burial places for dead animals, right? And their food and drink was simple. It was innocent, right? They didn't kill. They didn't take a life to eat, and it was simple. And then this gave them sort of better thinking, more clear thinking, and helped them control themselves, gave them discipline. So returning to Benjamin Lay, this is a quote from his recently published biography, um, Fearless Benjamin Lay, the Quaker dwarf who became the first revolutionary abolitionist, title of the book. Um, so here's a quote regarding his diet, right? He made his clothes in order to avoid the exploitation of the labor of others, animals included. He would not even use the wool of sheep in his clothing, and never wore any but flax-made garments. He ate only fruits and vegetables, drank only milk and water. He was a strict vegetarian and nearly a vegan 2 centuries before the word was invented. Right? So he was not interested in animal exploitation. He wanted to avoid it. Therefore, he avoided wool. He wore plant-based fibers, right? So flax, linen, pictured below. There's the linen in the field, flax in the field turns into the clothing after being elaborated. So we can't say he's fully vegan at this time, right? It says he's drinking milk. I also know that he was eating honey outside of his cave. He had an apiary harvest. He sort of had his own bees and he harvested the honey there. But he was very close, right? So he was very close. I mean, the word vegan didn't exist once again. I mean, we're good 2 centuries, like he says, 2 centuries before. This is the early 1700s. Um, this guy was very ahead of his time. So we have a famous abolitionist, one of the first. He was also a vegetarian. So what is a link here between abolitionism and vegetarianism slash veganism? Why does it show up in the same people? So let me know your thoughts below. I'm very interested. So here's my bibliography for today. And once again, thanks for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day.